Hello, it's Deborah from the attic, and I want to share today some techniques using a stencil and a black pen and a selection of inks. This is because when I recently did a Simon Says Stamp 10 cards 1 kit video using their most recent April kit, one of the cards I made used butterflies and inks and the stencil in a different way, and it got a lot of attention and a lot of likes, and I'll just go and grab it for you now. So this is the card, and what I did was put the stencil over a piece of white card. I used some foam dabbers to put some ink in the centre of the butterfly. I used two different inks, and I blended the inks on the card, which meant that I was using blue and yellow, and it meant that you got a beautiful lime green effect in there as well, where the colours mixed together. And then I used a fairly fine black marker pen to just add some detail in the centre. So on the basis of the popularity of this card, I'm going to do 2 or 3 short little videos with some extra ideas of ways that you can use stencils and or an ink pen. What I've got is 3 Distress Oxide inks, and I've got 3 foam dabbers. The foam dabbers that I use, I've mentioned these a few times actually, these are oral swabs. Sounds disgusting, but they're extremely practical. They're also very cheap. You get something like 250 of these for £10. They've got a little stick, so you don't need a special applicator or a foam applicator. You can just use them as they are, and because there are so many of them, they'll keep you going for a very long time. I find that the foam is quite durable, it's quite hard wearing, and these are my original ones, and I haven't sort of ground them down yet, so I'm still optimistic that I'll get quite a lot of use out of these. And what I do is I just take a selection of the swabs and I pop them in a little jar like this, and I keep them on the side of my desk. So I'm going to show you the effect that you get by using that same technique that I showed you on this card, but with some different colours and some brighter colours. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to work through it, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to end up making a really lovely finished card. So I'm going to start with the picked raspberry, and I'm just going to go in and dab and just move the sponge around as I press the ink through the stencil. And I'm not going for a solid image, I just want a nice little dab of colour. I'm also going to use this piece of scrap paper to cover up these holes, because I don't want to ink those holes as well. It doesn't really matter because I'm going to be cutting this butterfly out, but it just appeals to the neat freak in me. Now I'm using Wilted Violet, and where it goes on top of the picked raspberry there's a slight colour change, which is pretty. The last one I have is Wild Honey. There we go. When I move it away, beautiful soft image. Just very soft colours. So I'm going to do another 2 of the smaller raspberries. It's a butterfly. I'm going to do some smaller butterflies, and then I'll join up with you again when they're finished. My 3 butterflies are finished. There's some nice colours going on there, lovely and bright. So I'm going to put this to one side. I'm going to keep the wild honey because I'm going to use that again in a moment or two. Oops, I always have a stack of waste paper under my work area when I'm doing, usually when I'm doing stamping, but I quite like just having paper that I can scribble on or whatever I need to do. And you do actually need something to scribble on to keep the top of your pen clear and nice and black, and I'll show you what I mean. So I've given my butterflies a moment or two for the ink to dry, because that makes it easier when you use the black ink. And I'm going to start from left to right because I'm right-handed, and that way as I work on a butterfly and move on to the next one, hopefully I won't smudge the first one that I've done. Hopefully. It has been done. I have smudged. I'm a bit of a smudger. So I'm going to line up the stencil back over the first one. I'm going to take my black pen, I'm going to make sure that it's running nice and smoothly, which it is, and I'm going to hold the pen upright as much as I can, and I'm going to do zigzag lines. I've done the opposite side the same way. So for example, with this one, this little section here, tiny little section here and a tiny section here, I'm going to do a slightly different zigzag going in a slightly different direction, and that's what gives the whole thing a sense of movement and makes it a little bit different. Each of these little sections will stand out more because you've used a different direction for your black pen. With the antennae, I got it right, I usually call those antlers. With the antennae, I'm going in fairly densely. But with this little bit here, either side of the body of the butterfly, I'm going to go in with a lighter line. Not as dense. So I will simply continue adding the black ink in a zigzag pattern. There's nothing sophisticated about this. It's just a plain old zigzag pattern all over the butterfly. When I get to these roundy bits, see these little circular bits here, I can have a bit more fun with those, and I can just take my pen in a sort of an arc. Doesn't matter what you do, but I think it's good to keep it consistent, so when I do a big zigzaggy line like that on one side, I do the same type of zigzaggy line on the other side. Same with this bit. And if you want to make it a little bit more interesting or sophisticated, you can darken the corners, the extreme corners of the stencil, leave the centre a little bit lighter, less dense black ink. And in these little circles here, I'll just do a roundy bit, like that. So when I remove my stencil, the effect is quite nice. I'm going to complete the next two and then we'll join up again. The reason that I clear my pen off onto my scrap sheet is because sometimes the pen can pick up too much of the ink and then you don't get the black flowing through as smoothly as it should do. But that has kept my pen nice and clean. So my butterflies are finished. I think they're really sweet. And I'm going to get my scissors and I'm going to cut them out. I won't make you watch me cut them out, but I am going to leave a very thin white line around the outside of each of the butterflies. There we go. Now you see, this is where my neat freak kicks in, because that bit there, it's a wee bit too pointy. Can't have that. Can't have a slightly pointy butterfly. That's better. And if I sit and stare at that for long enough, I'll find plenty more to do on that, so I'm going to put it to one side. And I'm going to move on to the next one. You go and make a cup of tea and I'll join you again in a moment. All of the butterflies are cut out and they look very pretty. And I'm going to put those to one side because I'm going to prepare my card. So this is a yellow top folding card. This is sort of a warm honey yellow card. I've got a piece of white card which I've cut down so it will fit nicely with a tiny little border of yellow around that card, and this is going to be stencil. Now the stencil I'm going to use this time is from My Favourite Things. I use this stencil a lot. It's peachy, it's great. This one is called Radiating Rays. So Radiating Rays is going to get popped in the middle of the card, hopefully in the middle of the card, sort of about there, about there-ish, thereabouts. And I'm going to use, if I can find it, my repositionable tape. No, yes, repositionable tape. And I'm going to use this to just hold down my stencil in case I move it around too much. And I don't know if you've seen this stuff before, but if you put a row of tiny little dots there, so that's it sticky, and then when you're finished doing whatever you're doing, the dots rub away. And it's just called repositionable tape, and I've had this for, oh gosh, I don't know, 8-10 years, long time. And then obviously you get refills and you just refill your positionable tape inside the body of the doobie-doo. I shouldn't have started that because I don't know what the words are. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my wild honey and my appropriate coloured, I hate calling it an oral swab, my foam on a stick, and I'm just going to dab. So I'm not smearing this on. I don't want a solid block of colour, which I would get if I just did that. So it's being dabbed, and this takes a bit of time. Be patient. Don't dab too heavily. Just let it happen. Now I'm going to take the stencil away, and you can see I've left, or I have, a gap in the middle. I don't want that gap in the middle, I want to fill that in. So I'm going to use a very soft rub over with the same colour ink. This is a wild honey. And I'm going to fill in that big white patch in the middle because I don't want it. Now that that's finished, I'm going to get my base card, and I'm going to use this as a side fold. So I think I'll use it like that. I'm going to just fold my waste scrap in half because it's covered in repositionable ink. I don't want to get that onto my card. So that will line up there, and I'm going to use, I've been experimenting with a different ink. I've been using 3-in-1 recently. This is advanced craft glue for advanced crafting, yes. So this is pretty good, I like this, because when I stick paper and things like that down, it doesn't create a blob. And I'm doing this a little bit off camera, bear with. So I can see what I'm doing. This is the waste side of that that piece of card, so don't worry, I haven't gone over my design. It's ta-da, it's there. And you also get a little bit of time to move the glue about. I'm not always very good at getting things straight. I often make things on the wonk, and it's just my wonky world, it's fine. But I do sometimes think I should try and do better for you, because you're taking your time and you're watching this, and I try very hard to get things straight and they still go a bit wonky. So there's my base on my card, and now I'm going to bring my butterflies back in. Here they are. So I want to have one in the middle over that sunburst, and one in the top corner like that, and one sort of coming up here, that sort of thing. I could faff around with positioning butterflies forever. I'm going to try and be quick. I'm going to use this 3-in-1 glue again, and the first of the two smaller butterflies I'm going to stick directly onto the card. I want it just ever so slightly to hang over the edge of the card, and then I'm going to glue down the second. Sort of at a slightly different angle so they don't look like they're all in a row. And for my final butterfly, actually let's keep that glue. I'm going to get some craft foam. This is about 3, maybe 4 millimeters thick. I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to raise up this little butterfly, and the way I'm going to do that is just cut into the craft foam a little bit. So I'm going to try and cut around the butterfly without cutting into the butterfly, and it doesn't need to be terribly exact, it just needs to be enough to lift the butterfly up. This is a bit of a mystery, none of us can see what I'm doing. I can't see. What can I tell you? It feels right. It feels okay. Hey. Yeah, that's a butterfly-ish. Okay, that's fine. A little bit more off that piece. Now let's see. Let's see if that works. Yeah. A little bit there, a bit close to the edge. Take that away. A little bit there, close to the edge. Take that bit away. That'll do. I think that'll do. Okay, so let's see if the 3-in-1 glue works on craft foam. I haven't tried this on craft foam. I don't see why it wouldn't. With my usual glue, I use funky glue. This is from Tonic Studios. I love this, it's great. I've got 2 or 3 bottles of this, and I think it's very good. And I usually store it upside down like this, because the glue doesn't fall out down towards the tip, and it means that whenever you pick the stick up, it's ready to go. But it does take a time to dry when I'm using craft foam. But this, that is rock solid, almost instantly. Brilliant. So my elevated little butterfly will sit about here. I really want that one to be pretty much in the middle of that central sunburst. So let's pop that there. This is it's a bit thready. I think it must have some kind of acrylic or something in there, something that makes it a bit thready. I don't know how else to describe that. Okay, little butterfly there. So cute. Such a cute butterfly. So the final thing we need to do is put some kind of a sentiment on our card. So the sentiment that I have chosen says, "You have no idea how far you'll fly until you spread your wings." So that's a nice sentiment, isn't it? Very nice. What I did to create this sentiment, it's not a stamp, it's I printed it out onto a piece of paper just on my printer. So I just typed it into my document. It's not Word doc I use, but I typed it into wherever you type things into documents, and then I printed it and I just cut it out into 2 little pieces like this, and I used StazOn black ink to ink just around the edges. And the way to do that, you don't want to smear this because StazOn really does say, do what it says on the tin. You just want to sort of dip the edge into the ink and every now and again just drag it a little way just to pull the black a little bit deeper into the paper to give it a sort of a nice smudgy effect. All I need to do now to complete my card is to glue this down. Thready glue, thready glue. I don't mind that, that makes the glue a bit of a challenge. Oh, is it going to make threads this time, or is it going to be okay this time? Oh, are we wonky or are we okay? We're okay, we are okay. This is good. And actually this sentiment made me think of a friend of mine who is doing an amazing thing. She is running in the London Marathon this year. It's her first full marathon, and this card really makes me think about her and her achievement and all the work that she's done to get herself to this point where she can run 26 miles. It's an amazing thing. Oh, we've gone a bit thready there. If she'd asked me, I would have given her a lift if she wanted to go 26 miles, but no, she wants to run it. Great. But for her, she didn't know how far she could run until she spread her wings. So that's the card finished. Let me just move some things so you can get a nice clear view of the card. There we go. A nice little bit of inspiration with a nice little bit of inking up and some lovely black pen work with a nice fine marker pen. A little bit of printing out and you have a lovely card. I hope you enjoyed that. I've got another couple of ideas that I want to share with you of different ways to use this technique, and I will see you next time. Take care.